Okay, Team Clarify, welcome back. Let's quickly discuss Physics 101. Okay, let's just have a look at this. It's always nice when you're preparing for tests or whatever, when you go through a semester, knowing what is going to come at each stage, at each hurdle. And that is why you're always given a module guide, which is a syllabus, right? In university, the syllabus is now called the module guide. So we want to just look at some important things that you find in your module guide for the 2025-2026 Physics 101. So we want to see what it is that it is in your module guide, important dates, important information that we can use to be able to prepare for our Physics 101, whatever that is going to come, and make sure we are going to get them the best grades that we can get. So first of all, we want to see important dates. So first of all, we are going to say test dates. That's the first thing. First thing we're going to look at is when is that, or maybe before I do that, let's say the first thing, let's talk about how physics is going to be categorized. Okay, let's talk about the assessment. Let's talk about the evaluation. So we can call this the evaluation section. We want to see what value each section will have and contribute to our final mark. Then we're going to look at the test dates and all these other things. So now, how am I going to have a great physics CA? That's the question. And we'll be looking at your module guide. We're looking at your module guide to see, okay, so there are three things that will contribute to our CA. Number one, let's talk about it. The three things that will contribute to our CA. So number one is going to be the online quizzes. So let's say first thing is the online quizzes. And these are from PHYS. Okay, so here these are going to be on PHYS, and these are going to be with 10% of the final mark, okay, which is 10% of the CA, which is going to be 10% of the final mark. Okay, so of the CA, would like to say 20% of the CA, and that's 10% of the final mark, right? So of the final mark, CA is the half mark, the 50%. So it's like that. Then we're going to have tutorial tests. So quizzes will be on PHYS, okay, you'll be given. Then you're going to have tutorial tests. So quizzes are coming, be ready for them. PHYS quizzes are on their way, you're guaranteed. Then the next is tutorial tests, and the tutorial tests will be given to you at the end, okay, and that is going to be after your lab. So during your lab time, be careful, that is when you're going to do these. And there you'd have tutorial tests, and these are also going to be with what, 10% of your final mark. Let's just say 10% of your final mark, so you understand it. And then you're going to have tests, okay? And how many tests are you going to have? 3. So two tests. Let's just say 2 tests. Sorry for that. So the 2 tests, and these are going to be worth 15% of your final mark. Then the fourth and final thing is the physics lab. So it's actually 4 things, not 3. The physics lab, this as well is going to be worth 15%. So I'm going to have your labs, and remember there are 4 labs, and they're going to contribute 15%. So labs are important. Look at how important they are. So you have the test, you have the tutorial test, then you have the online quizzes, then you have the tests themselves and the lab tests. So this is going to be what all will come and give you your CA mark of 50. So CA will be equal to 50%. It is going to be made by that. Then you are going to now have plus exam. And the exam is going to be 50%. So this will be the first thing. So the 4 things to know, the 4 important things. PHYS quizzes are worth 10% of your physics final mark. The tutorial tests are also big, so you have to always, because of this, you always have to be moving with your lecturer, because you'll be getting tutorial tests in the lab sessions, and they'll be related to the things you have been doing in class. So you have to be good at those ones. And then the tests, which we are now going to put the test dates, are going to give you 15%, and the labs will give you 15%. So we're going to really make sure we are good at labs, really make sure we are good at the test, we are prepared for the tests, and we are also prepared for the tutorial tests, and you're also getting great marks for the online quizzes. You see, this is going to be very important, very important. So first of all, let's go to second section, and let's talk about test dates now. Okay, so second section, we now know that they're worth 15%. Now let's talk about the test dates. Okay, let's talk about the test dates. What are we going to have? We are going to have test 1. So test 1, this is the physics. So physics 101 test 1. Okay, this is according to your own module guide. Test 1 is going to be on the 22nd of September. So say 22 September. 22 September, you have the first test. Okay, and it will be in week 7. So we are going to expect things from week 1 up to week 5 at least, or something like that, because it is going to be things up. It's going to be in week 7. So we are going to expect things from week 1 up to week 6, or week 1 up to week 5, thereabout, right? So physics test 1 is going to be on 22 September, and then you're going to have physics 101 test 2. Test 2 is going to be now in October and mid-October, or towards the last half of October, last third of October. So it's 20 October. This is going to be it. And here we have, and it'll be in week 11. So here are some important dates. Although I like to have people focus on one test at a time. Like, let's look at test 1, then we start going through the syllabus. Remember how it comes. You're going to have do some things, you write them in test 1, then they are not going to come in test 2. You have your own things in test 2, then you're going to join together at the end again. So here now, what are we going to put? Let's put test 1 of the things that we have to know here. What is then the physics 101 like? Because some of these things you already know. So now, what are the topics? So now, let's put the third section, and I want you to say here, for third section, I want you to say topics covered, okay? We need to now look at what are the topics that are covered. So we want to say topics covered, right? And then what should be happening is we're going to be putting the topics covered, but here we're going to be putting the week number, okay? So that we are going to see which things will be by the time we get to week 7 for test 1, we would have done what? At least from weeks 1 up to 5. Then this is going to be now chapter in book. Okay? Chapter in book. Now, what is going to be the week number? In week number 0, first thing you do is going to be mathematical revision. Okay? Mathematical revision of important things, right? Mathematical revision of what? Of some important information which you're going to need. And let me tell you something that is going to be important that comes from this topic here. It is going to be the idea of special triangles, because we are going to see that you would need to find some thing to say what is cos 60, also using special triangles. So you have to be good at this. So here's your special triangle. Now the other thing, so that is something that is going to be important that you learn in this. In week 1, you are now going to be talking about we can say you're going to be talking about introduction. But in introduction, there's a lot of stuff that comes here that will come in test 1. Okay, because you're going to talk about scientific notation. In test 1, you get something and they'll ask you to convert to scientific notation. So you need to understand what is scientific notation or standard form. Then in here, you're going to have time and measurement, okay? And remember, some of these are important when you are focusing. So here we have time and measurement, being the second one. In time and measurement, you've done after scientific notation, you do time and measurement. In time and measurement, what is very, very important for you to know is the 6 base quantities and also the table of prefixes. So you got to be good at them, because you'll be doing some calculation or whatever, and you'll be asked to convert from one form to another, and you're going to need to have this. Now, the other thing, it's not at the end now. The other thing which you're going to have, so time and measurement, okay, and units, you also can include to say in units. Then you're going to have uncertainty. So here, uncertainty, but it's not important. We'll talk about it for the lab. And then you're going to have significant figures. So significant figures. This is so important because you'll be getting calculations and they'll be asking you to put the right number of significant figures, and they'll put you where two things are going to add and then multiply and then whatever, then ask for the significant figures or whatever they'll ask. So this is going to be important, and it is going to come from topic 1. So topic 1 will be asked a lot in test 1. Make sure you know that already. Then now you're going to have in week 2. Okay, now we are going to have in week 2 now. What's going to happen in week 2? In week 2, we are going to now, okay, so sorry, let's say this is week 1, and then week 2 is introduction. Then now you're going to have weeks 3 and 4, right? In weeks 3 and 4, we'll be talking about motion in 1 dimension. So motion in 1 dimension. Okay, so motion in one dimension, and this is where you talk about what? Things like displacement. So in motion in one dimension, you talk about things like displacement, and then you talk about things like velocity. Then you talk about things like the difference between vectors and scalars. So you can say vectors. Then you're going to talk about constant and instantaneous velocity. Okay, constant versus instantaneous velocity. Okay. Okay, versus instantaneous velocity. Okay, so it's constant velocity versus instantaneous, and you're going to be like that. Then in week 5, which we expect to be in test 1 as well, there's going to be acceleration. This is where you talk about acceleration. Okay, acceleration, projectile motion, free fall, we talk about it. So we'll see what projectile motion is and free fall and whatever, but it's all going to be coming from this thing. Okay, projectile motion and free fall. Okay, projectile motion, then you can talk about free fall, not free flow, free fall, and then all these other things, etc. They will come here. You have these other things. So yes, after understanding the whole idea of acceleration and forces, then of course let's just put one more thing maybe to say what they actually do in week 6 in case it comes is going to be momentum. So there's going to be 6 where you talk about momentum, and you talk about friction, and you talk about the conservation of momentum and all these things. Okay, good. And then in chapter 7, which is the chapter, this is going to be energy. Okay, after momentum is energy, where you talk about collisions and elastic. So you talk about elastic. Then you're going to talk about kinetic, whatever, all these other things. Okay, and yeah. Okay, you'll be talking about the types of collisions and all these things, and you talk about them. So this is going to be weeks. This is going to be information, and in the book, this is going to be chapter 1 is going to be introduction. So it starts here. Then chapter 2 when I did 3 and 4. Then chapter 3, and then chapter 4. All right, so here it is. Here are the things that we gotta do, and this is going to be everything. So chapter 1 up to whatever, and here is the information that we got to cover for test 1. And remember, I said mathematical revision can come, introduction, a lot of it will come, motion in one dimension, momentum, energy, everything. Okay, this is going to be for the topics covered, and then we're going to look at the other things in the next video. So just hold on to this, and then let's start working. So now the other thing which we now need to look at is going to be the labs. So we'll see how to do, because they're carrying a lot. 15% is a lot, and then we'll keep going and seeing how it goes. All right, goodbye for now.